lo and behold, this was probably like 1995 when the study came out. Tai Chi was way better than anything else. And that's when you started to hear doctors, because they had proof, medical science that says, hey, this prevents falls.
Yeah.
And it helps prevent falls. It reduced falls by about 45%, almost 50%. So that was impressive. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and the College of Nursing conducted 2 studies, and one was for cardiac rehab patients, and then the other one was for post-stroke patients. And in both of those studies, it came out that people benefit in cardiac rehab, for example. They were already doing a robust program of exercise. And the people that did Tai Chi in addition to that had added benefits. And one of them was balance and coordination.
Welcome to Aging in Style with Lori Williams, the podcast all about finding the silver lining no matter what life throws your way. I'm Lori Williams, an award-winning senior living expert, author, educator, and caregiver to my husband, Mark. Join me as I share insights, tips, and personal stories to help you navigate the world of senior housing, discover ways to pay for care, advocate for your loved ones, and most importantly, learn how to thrive, not just survive, as you age. Hi, welcome to Aging in Style. Today, we are talking about Tai Chi, and I've wanted to do this episode for a very long time because my aunt, who is my special guest today, she knows all about Tai Chi, and I think there's confusion about what Tai Chi is, and I know if you've seen it, it's like this really slow motion martial arts, and that's kind of all a lot of people know about it. You may know it by the name, but not what it is and the benefits of it. And so that's why I have my Aunt Edna here with me. So welcome, Edna Silva.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, because I think that's really important for people to know.
I am a retired registered nurse. I retired after about 60 years nursing, and my focus in the last 30 years was cardiac rehab, and specifically prevention. So treating people who already had an event and working very strongly on preventing another event. So keeping people out of the hospital is what I like to do.
Yeah, and that's very important, and that's a lot of the information we share here is that because you do not want to be in the hospital. You want to stay as healthy as possible. You don't want to have a fall. And that's a lot of the benefits of Tai Chi. And that's what we are going to be talking about. So why don't we just kind of start with the basics, and we're going to keep it simple because it can get like complex, because we were talking earlier and I'm like, well, let's just keep it kind of basic about Tai Chi. So tell us what Tai Chi is.
The full name of the exercise is Tai Chi Chuan. So Tai Chi means the greatest utmost, and Chuan means fist. So it is based in Chinese philosophy because martial arts starts in China. So in China, there are 2 schools of martial arts. The internal school of martial arts, which is Tai Chi Chuan, Xingyi, and Bagua, and then hard martial arts, which is the well-known Kung Fu. So Tai Chi is a Chinese martial art, and it belongs to the meditative, peaceful, protecting health aspects.
So like when you think of Kung Fu, right, that's Chinese. Because she educated me with this because I was thinking karate, but karate is Japanese, right?
Correct.
So Kung Fu, so you think of that like as protection. Tai Chi is really just more about your health and well-being, correct? Or is it also used for defense?
It is a true martial art. Every movement that you perform has a specific role, has a specific application. So every movement is a martial art. It's choreographed to be a continuous rhythmic movement for about 20 to 30 minutes in the long form when people do that. But that isn't, when you practice it for self-defense, then it takes on a different aspect, which is called push hands, which we won't go into here.
Okay.
But it would be 2 people practicing a different set of skills. And the idea, I would just say, in the internal martial art, you don't use force. You use chi. So this is the operative word for health and for self-defense in Tai Chi. Tai Chi uses mind, which directs energy, called Qi, and Qi moves the body. Energy moves the body. So when you do Tai Chi for self-defense, instead of, you never attack and you never run away. And for self-defense, what you do is to adapt, adjust, neutralize, and divert.
Okay. So Qi, we'll get back to that. Qi is the operative word here because that is energy.
Correct.
And everyone has energy within them.
Correct.
And practicing Tai Chi, are you like basically controlling or using that
cultivating
energy?
it.
Cultivating the energy.
Cultivating the Qi.
Okay. And so you explained to me, like, I think it was the 4 types of exercise, and that Tai Chi covers all of those. So explain
Correct.
that to us.
Okay. So the 4 components of exercise, as we think of it in the West, and we think of it scientifically, and everybody's pretty much accustomed to these 4 ways. So one is people exercise aerobically, which means continuous rhythmic movement of large muscle groups. Tai Chi meets that criteria.
Okay.
And in fact, in studies that have measured the VO2 max, which is like the oxygen usage, it is comparable to walking 3 miles an hour. So Tai Chi is aerobic. It's continuous rhythmic movement of large muscle groups. Then we think of strength training. So you think of weights or machines or those kinds of things. Tai Chi is also strength training, is very, very good for strengthening your legs because of its inherent nature, because of how the moves are done. But it strengthens your arms as well because you're constantly moving your arms and holding them up, and doing different movements. So aerobic strength training, and then we think, well, we have to stretch. So perhaps you think of things like yoga or Pilates or things like that. So stretching is important. After you do an aerobic exercise in cardiac rehab, we recommend people do strength training and then do some stretching and teach stretching. Tai Chi is a stretch. So it stretches your entire body. It's continuous movements, changing all the time, and you're stretching in very gentle ways. Immediately, for example, after you've strengthened the right leg, and you then step forward with your left leg, you're stretching the right. So it stretches you, and you do down postures, and it kicks and that kind of thing. There's stretching. It's done all in slow motion. So again, aerobic, strength, stretching. And what we often don't know what to do is balance and coordination. And balance and coordination is what impacts older citizens like me. I'm 80.
She does not look 80.
So we want to prevent falls, right? That's the biggest thing really for folks 60 and over. Begin to notice that they're losing their balance or begin to fall. And that's the important thing, is to prevent the fall, or to be able to heal after the fall, or to fall gently.
Yeah.
So Tai Chi in that way teaches you, as you do the different movements, you are likely to fall more gently. You're likely to stay peaceful as you fall.
Not panic.
Exactly. And you just don't get as shook up. And so balance and coordination, study after study, I want to say the Harvard Medical School published a book on Tai Chi and the health benefits, and they quoted 700 different studies that have been done, and all of them were positive for Tai Chi. I've never seen a study that said, we studied Tai Chi and compared it to blah, blah, and Tai Chi was no good. I have never heard that.
Yeah.
It's always Tai Chi was the best. And the first hallmark study that was done was at Emory University. There were 8 different places in the country where they did different types of exercise, different interventions to help with balance. And at Emory University, there was a physics professor who happened to be a Tai Chi master, and he taught the class. And lo and behold, this was the early 90s, probably like 1995 when the study came out. Tai Chi was way better than anything else, and that really was very satisfactory. And that's when you started to hear doctors, because they had proof, medical science that says, hey, this prevents falls.
Yeah.
And it helps prevent falls. It reduced falls by about 45%, almost 50%. So that was impressive. And they were people who were limited that they were working with. I personally have been the teacher for 2 studies done in Tucson, Arizona. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and the College of Nursing conducted 2 studies, and one was for cardiac rehab patients, and then the other one was for post-stroke patients. And in both of those studies, it came out that people benefit in cardiac rehab, for example. They were already doing a robust program of exercise, and the people that did Tai Chi in addition to that had added benefits. And one of them was balance and coordination. And then in the post-stroke studies, it was interesting because we stopped at 8 weeks instead of 12 weeks. The people did classes 3 times a week. We stopped at 8 weeks because of COVID. And still the people had made statistically significant improvements in their balance, in their coordination, and in stress. So when they tested their blood and did different studies, they had reduced stress. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Tai Chi covers 4 in 1.
Exactly. It covers the 4 components of fitness. Now, I really recommend exercise, so I don't think you can do 30 minutes of Tai Chi and then sit all day.
Yeah.
I think you still need to get up and walk and go for a walk. Or, I'm not against any other exercise. I'm just saying Tai Chi covers all of them, and if you do that every day, it is almost miraculous.
Yeah. And so really, probably so I don't think we ever heard about it until probably the 1990s. Well, you're the first person I ever heard Tai Chi from, actually, and that was the 1990s. So how did you get interested and learn about Tai Chi? How did this come into your life? And it's a passion for you. It's a huge thing for you.
It is my life now. Tai Chi is one of the most important things. I think grandchildren take first.
And your favorite niece?
And my favorite niece. They would come above Tai Chi, but you have to be at that level.
Yeah.
So I just briefly, I had been a nurse in many, many different settings, including emergency rooms and so forth. And one night during a night shift in a small hospital in the mountains of Colorado, I had an aha. And my aha was that everybody in the hospital was there because of their lifestyle in that moment.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what I want to do is help people stay out of hospitals. So that was the first thought. That was the first switch for me. And then I moved to Tucson, Arizona, and I was working in a trauma unit. And still, it was motorcycle accidents and car wrecks and all kinds of things. And I still kept thinking, that I would love to work in prevention. And then a position opened up in a cardiac rehab program that was run by the largest group of cardiologists in Tucson. And I was hired. And I was hired because of other experiences where I was good at stress reduction. In other words, I could teach different skills for stress reduction. So that was why they hired me. And then in that program, there were 2 physicians who had started the cardiac rehab program for that cardiology group. And I learned so much from them in terms of exercise and the physiology of it and the heart. And I worked for them for 10 years, and then I did 20 years in another rehab program. So I have 30 years experience in cardiac rehab. So in my first experience working with these physicians who were very inspirational to me, and they were doing what I had longed to do. One of them left a flyer on my desk saying that a physician from China, a cardiologist from China, was going to give a talk at the College of Medicine. And he said, Edna, I can't attend, can you? Well, that really piqued my interest because very recently, prior to that, I had watched Bill Moyer's Healing and the Mind on PBS. So I had watched this series, and I only watched the 1-hour series that said The Mystery of Qi. And there I learned about Qi. I had never heard of Qi. And I saw it in the way that the Chinese believed in it, and it was applied to calligraphy, it was applied to the way they lived, the way they exercised. And at the very end, about the last 4 minutes, he goes to Shanghai and interviews a grandmaster. And the grandmaster is in his 90s. And he says that Tai Chi is for health. And he says that, remember the final purpose, health, healing, and eternal spring, which means a good quality life throughout advanced old age.
I love that.
Yes. And that piqued my interest, and something within me said, I'm going to study with that man.
What was his name?
Master Ma Yu Liang.
Okay, so you just say the name because then it comes back around. Okay.
Yeah, Master Ma Yu Liang. Inside of me, a voice said, I'm going to study with that man. And immediately after that very strong voice, another one said, how are you getting to Shanghai? So then I see this flyer. This man's a cardiologist, and he's from Shanghai, not knowing that there were 18 million people in Shanghai. Sure. I thought I certainly could find Master Ma. So I attend the talk, and I was very impressed. I wrote every word down that he said. And later, because he became my teacher, later he said that he was impressed with me because I wrote down every word he said, as a physician would be. Yeah. So I went up to them, and the man that he was living in Washington State at the time with someone.
This is the cardiologist?
The cardiologist, okay. Yeah. He was here, anyway, visiting. And so I went up to the person who had invited him and said, I think I was speaking for the group of cardiologists. I think the cardiologist would be interested in this. Could he sometime come give a talk or, tell us more about it? Yeah. And then fast forward, Dr. Z came to Tucson. The cardiologist helped him get a visiting scholar visa through the university, through family and community medicine at the university. So
and Dr. Z was the cardiologist who did the speech.
Yes,
was from Shanghai.
Dr. Z was the physician who gave the talk, and he was a retired cardiologist. He was 76 at the time, had never been out of China before.
Wow.
It was very interesting. He could speak English because he had attended a British school in olden times in Shanghai, so he could speak English. So what happened was that he became my teacher. He lived with me for 6 years. The cardiology group helped us all along the way. And then he introduced me. I was in Shanghai 10 months after I had watched that show. 10 months later, I was in Shanghai studying with Master Ma Yu Liang, because Dr. Z turned out to be his indoor student.
That's so crazy. So it was like a premonition. You didn't know how you were going to get there, but you knew you were going to study with him. And 10 months later, you were there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Serendipity.
So, meant to be.
It was meant to be. So I traveled to China 4 times with him. And then he told me about Master Ma's adopted daughter, who was a martial artist and was really the greatest in the world at this time. So at one point, then I went to New Zealand and met Master Ma's adopted daughter, Master Shu Mei Ling, and studied in New Zealand and brought her to Tucson, Arizona, and now I visit her in Shanghai as well.
And then you started your school in Tucson. What was the name of your school?
It's called Edna Silva Center for Wu Style Tai Chi Chuan. That's the long name.
That's a mouthful.
It's a long name because you can't say the center. Yeah. They won't, it's just too generic.
Yeah.
I wanted to just call it the center. So, but we do call it the center.
Yeah.
So it's the Wu style. So what I studied was classic Wu, W-U style of Tai Chi Chuan.
And how many types of Tai Chi are there?
Well, there are 3 types of internal martial arts, which I said at the beginning. But then the classic styles of Tai Chi, there are 5.
Okay.
And so there's the original, which is Chen style. In the Chen village. You can go to the Chen village today and study Tai Chi. And actually, it has really built up to a big center, Chen style. It has about 40 generations, a history of about 40 generations. Yeah. And then from Chen style comes Yang style, and that was more in the 1800s. And then from Yang style comes Wu style, the one I teach. And then comes Wu Hao, which is more for scholars. And so it's way slow, and it's quite different. The people that follow that are mostly scholars, in what they say in China.
Yeah.
And then there's Sun style, S-U-N, and those are the 5 classics. classic styles.
Which is most popular in China?
In China, I would say after the 1950s, when the Communist Party won the Civil War, they came up with a 24 movement and 48 movement so that everybody, when you have 5 styles, they said, how can you compete style against style? You really, it's really not, possible. And so they wanted to take the focus away from martial arts and that kind of use of martial arts to more competition.
Oh, okay.
So in China, you have this 24-48 form, which they said they had taken a little bit of each style, but it looks more like Yang style.
Okay.
So I would say Yang style. But Chen style has become big in the world as well. And Chen style, there's different places that like that birthplace,
Yeah.
The Chen style is from the Chen village. But Tai Chi as legend and lore, Tai Chi is said, the birthplace is said to be Wudang Mountain, where a famous Taoist scholar, a sage named Chan Sun Feng, he saw a snake and a bird fighting, and that is said to be the origin of the idea of Tai Chi, that he saw a different way, which would be adapt, adjust, neutralize, and divert. Right? So the internal martial arts comes from Wudang Mountain.
Okay.
And then the Chen village was the strong point where all these other came from. Right now, though, your question was what's the most popular. It's a little hard to say because the government has put a lot of emphasis on the Chen village now.
Oh, okay.
So they're encouraging tourism.
Yeah.
And they're encouraging people to come to Chen village. They also recognize the Yang style. And then the Wu style, that they have given my teacher, Xu Meiling, for her wonderful martial arts skills, both in Kung Fu and Tai Chi, recently have honored her and given her different prizes. The family has pretty much died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so there are, Xu Meiling is the exponent of Wu style Tai Chi, but the sons died, and there isn't really like a head of the family right now.
So she kind of like is the one.
They just they recognize her for her martial arts skills, and they are interested in acknowledging these people before their death. Master Ma and Master Wu, who were a couple. I studied with Master Ma. Master Wu was his wife, and it's her father for whom this is named.
Oh,
He was so wonderful that they named it, like, you deserve your own form because you are very amazing martial artist. That's how you...
So that's where the Wu
came from. And so there's one son who's still living, but most of the other 3 died. And so... Yeah, there's different Wu styles around the world, in Macau and Hong Kong, in northern, like Beijing area. There's a Wu stylist who's my friend here in Texas. There are people who do Wu style, but I wouldn't say that's the most popular.
So if you were to take a Tai Chi class, because like I said, I don't think anyone really had heard of it in the 90s, and it's become very popular. And even like our local senior center offers a Tai Chi class, but it could be a different style because there are different ways of doing it. But it's basically the same premise, though. There could be a different forms meaning like the motions that you do, the steps.
There are different styles of Tai Chi. So it would be what I said, Chen style, Yang style, and so forth. Yang style is very well known around the world because during the liberation, the 50s, Yang style flourished in China. So that and the 24-48 forms are pretty much look like Yang style. But now, of course, they're really promoting Chen style as well. And Wu style is a smaller class. In China, Wu style is known as the elegant form and also really good for health.
Okay, are the others as good for health?
Yes.
Okay.
I think they're all good for health.
Okay.
And the secret is practice.
Perseverance. You said perseverance. You have. It's not hard, but Aunt Edna was showing me some moves last night, and it was like, I'm like, I would have to do this, the repetition over and over to really get it. And it's not hard. It's just knowing the steps to do. And it's very slow. And you're also, which I didn't realize, like a big part of it, because I asked her, why do they move so slow? What's that all about? And that's the meditation part. So explain how that works, because I thought that was interesting.
Okay. So Tai Chi is a moving meditation. It's also called shadow boxing, which means it's a pantomime in my mind, right?
Yeah.
So Tai Chi is a pantomime. So think of somebody who's a really, really good pantomimist, and it seems real, right? They might be putting their hands on a window or a wall or whatever they're doing, and whatever they're doing looks real, looks like they're really doing it.
Yeah.
So to be able to be really doing something that somebody else recognizes that you really do it, you need to practice a lot, and you need to be meditative, and you need to believe it, and you need to know what you're doing. So this would be a pantomime of self-defense. And for my students, I call it self-care. Self-defense means self-care. Self-care for the step. Self-defense for the tree branch. For a dog behind you. For a cat in front of you. I mean, a lot of times people fall because of the pets in their home. Yeah. They trip on the pet. Or the steps. Or a lot of different things like that. So, or the sidewalk's a little uneven. Or you didn't expect a toy somewhere. That misplaced objects, that kind of thing. So you're practicing to be in the moment. In the moment is a meditation, right? Living in the moment. Instead of chanting or a mantra or other ways of meditation, this is a moving meditation. So the meditation is the movement itself. And so it needs to be precise and it needs to be meaningful. One time somebody said to my teacher, "Oh, it looks like a dance." And she said, "No dance, I mean it." And she said, "I mean the martial art move of this."
Yeah.
Right? There are punches, there are kicks.
But they're very slow and very controlled.
Slow motion.
And you're meditating. As you're doing that, you're on the movement.
You're meditating on the feeling. Well, your mind is
focused on that only.
The mind... Dr. Z used to say the mind is the emperor and the bones and the flesh are the servants. So the mind comes first. The mind directs the chi. The chi directs the body. And I showed Lori yesterday in a room, I said the light switch is the brain. The light is the movement. But if you don't have the wiring between the mind and the hand, then there's nothing. And so that's what Tai Chi does, is building neural pathways.
Which I love that because as I've shared on the podcast, my husband's strokes, the repetitiveness of all the therapies he receives is building those neural pathways. So that's what Tai Chi is doing too.
Yeah, and this is a wonderful example. I call that truth. So the truth is the truth. It works for somebody with a stroke to repeat movements in order to build new pathways from brain to hand or foot or whatever. It's the same with Tai Chi. It's the same science. The science is that you're building a pathway and eventually have the wiring, and then you're an advanced student.
But that's why it takes repetition.
It takes repetition. You need to do it. You need to do over and over. That Master Ma Yulang said, there are 5 characters that describe Tai Chi. He said, first, stillness. Stillness means you calm your mind and you quiet your heart. So you be present in the moment and you're doing the movements. The movements are the meditation. Stillness. Lightness. It's not like Kung Fu or karate, or like a karate chop. People know that, right? And they know Kung Fu too, like Kung Fu Panda. I don't know.
I love that movie.
They understand Kung Fu, and it's usually like hard and Tai Chi is it. So stillness, lightness. the movements are light. It looks ethereal almost. So stillness, lightness, slowness, precision. It needs to be done precisely. And somebody again asked Mei Ling, why do you have to be so precise? And she said, let's say that my phone number is 482, just, and you call 481. You won't get me. You won't reach me. And so it's the same for this. You're at the wrong address.
Yeah.
You're on the right. What if I just go off an inch on the map? Well, now we don't do maps. We do Siri. But if you were doing a map and you went off an inch, you're not at your goal. And that's the same. So stillness, lightness, slowness, precision. I also think of it as a knife, because the character for precision is a knife. It's a meaning. I think of it as a surgeon, scalpel. They have to be precise. Yeah. Right? And when they're not, it's bad.
Yes, please be precise.
Wrong knee, wrong patient.
Yeah.
We have to be precise in medicine. You can't give, if it's 0.2, you can't give 2.0. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But you've only moved that little decimal one movement. And so that's the precision of Tai Chi, that kind of precision.
Okay.
Stillness, lightness, slowness, precision. Last one, perseverance. And Master Ma said, Tai Chi is not very difficult. Perseverance is difficult. So doing it every day, every day, every day. He said it took him 10 years to feel his Chi and 30 years to learn to work it. Because he was an amazing, amazing man. What he could do with a two-person, when you go into the applications of this called push hands, he was amazing. He would barely touch somebody and they would fall. And a lot of people say it looks fake. And I say, well, if you were ever the recipient, it isn't. I've done push hands with my teacher, and it literally felt like the earth beneath me was moving, and there was no way I could keep my balance. If I pushed against her, it was even worse.
Yeah, that's the energy, the Chi.
Yes, the Chi that they have learned to work in amazing ways.
Because you mentioned, like, if someone tried to, like, hurt someone or push, because they have the Chi, they've worked it so hard, their energy, it goes back to them in, like, double, basically, right? Right.
It goes back to the person that tries to hurt you. Yeah. But even more. Than what they tried, And I was telling Lori about the Master Ma. He when I met him, he was 94. And he would come to class and come teach his class at the park walking. And he would walk in with a cane and then put the cane down and he could do kicks. And I'm like, why does he use a cane? Now I think, just cautious, I don't know, in the 90s, that he looked like an old man, an older man. And so one day, this younger man, kid, tries to just get in line, push Master Ma out of the way and get in line. Master Ma didn't even move, but that boy's energy came back to him and he was thrown back. And he just looked, he was so puzzled, the story is great, and he just went to the back of the line. Yeah. Because he couldn't push Ma. He can't push Mei Ling. It comes back at you. Yeah. It's like he hit a wall. It's a very interesting experience. I'm not at that level at all.
And that's not what that's what we're, people who've studied it for their lives basically can get to that point. But what we're talking about is Tai Chi just to live better, be healthier, not fall, stay independent. Those are the things we all want. And, like Edna said, once you hit 60, your chances of falling. And those are the calls we get where people's lives have changed because now they've broken a hip. And if you're 85 and break a hip, that can be very serious, obviously. Yeah. And so we just want to prevent that. And Tai Chi is a tool for you to build better health, prevent falling. I love the meditation aspect of it too, because I think that's so important, especially like being a caregiver and the stress that I'm under. it can be hard to calm your mind. And I have worked really hard to do that. It was really hard for me in the beginning. But Tai Chi I think it's a wonderful way because you're focused. I think that's a hard thing, trying to figure out how to quiet your mind, sitting there quieting. But if you're doing Tai Chi and you're focusing on your hand and you've cleared your mind, that makes it easier.
You're focusing on the movement, and there are 100 in the long form. I teach 6 movements to beginners. It's called 2-minute Tai Chi. Dr. Z named it that because he wanted something at Canyon Ranch, at one of the resorts, that he could teach to people who were just dropping in, an introduction.
Yeah.
This is what it's like. This is how it's done. I teach one we do in the studies, and that's 23 movements. And then there's the 106. And so people start out by studying just a little, but there's a specific sequence, so you're focusing on the movements, and you're also keeping track of where you are. Are you in section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5, section 6, And so by doing it by yourself or together is, I love to do it together. I love to do it in a group. And I have people that have been with me 30, 20 years, or as long as 30, as long as I've been doing it, and the newer people. But what's really wonderful sometimes, as the group moves as a unit, there's an exponential...
the energy.
The energy in the space and the feeling of all these people, 10, 20, moving all in the same way is very, very, very special. And it adds to the meditation. And I've had times... there's one of my students who's always in the front with me and leads one end. We have different people who lead on the edge and the edges in the advanced group. Like everybody's just doing it, but they take specific points. And sometimes, one time it was very interesting. I love what happens sometimes. I'm doing it, and then I'm like, is it his leg or my leg? It was almost like, because we were just one.
Oh, that's cool.
We were just one. As I moved, he moved, or as he moved, I moved, and it was almost like we were moving each other's legs, and then I looked around, and there's some really interesting movements where you feel so connected in such a different way, because it's an energy way, it's a chi way of moving that is very satisfying, very enjoyable. There's because of cardiac rehab, we would say there's 4 legs on your chair, and that's on the stool, and you need to have all 4 of them. One of them is how you eat, and then exercising, eating healthy, exercising, stress reduction, and community. And so I've been amazed at how, except for what you eat, Tai Chi provides all the others.
Yeah.
So it has actually become a community. It's a Tai Chi community where we meet 1, 2, 3 times a week to practice Tai Chi together, to play. And that's the other thing. It's a sport. So when you do Tai Chi, you're playing. So they come to play Tai Chi with me.
Yeah, because you're playing a sport.
Like play basketball. Yeah. We're going to play basketball. We're going to play Tai Chi. Yeah.
I love that. So I wish Aunt Edna was here in Dallas, but she's here visiting. But if you are interested, there are ways that you can learn more about this. And one is, if you live in Tucson, you need to go be a part of this. You can take a class, and I don't know, how often do you teach classes?
Well, I teach classes almost every day. So, for example, on Mondays at 9 a.m. I teach an intermediate class, and at 10:30 I teach a beginner.
Okay.
On Saturdays, I teach advanced, and we do from 8:30 till 10:30. We do Qigongs, and we do Tai Chi, and, it's a longer class.
Yeah. And then you also teach a Zoom class on Sundays so that people who are not local in Tucson can join this class. And you said that class is only $10, right? To the Zoom
right.
class.
If you buy a series, which would be, right now it's going to be April, starts in April, May, June. So April, May, June would be a new series. And if you buy that series, it's $10 a class.
Okay.
And then if you attended all the classes, you usually end up getting 2 free ones. But then I think we charge $100 for those. If you come just to one class, just to see, that's 15.
Okay.
So it's still not that expensive.
To see if it's something you want to do. And then you can be any level to be on the Zoom class, or is it really more directed to beginners?
It's directed to people who want to do the whole form. In other words, I should say, there is opportunity to do the whole form with me.
Okay.
And I talk through each and every movement. So there's opportunity in that class to do the whole form. However, at the beginning, and depending on who's in attendance, I teach basics.
Okay.
Like the 5 basic steps, standing, body preparation, standing meditation, 5 basic steps, movement by movement, and then it would focus on the movement. So it would be possible, if you have the patience and willing to take your time and just observe. You learn from watching too.
Yeah.
So you would be watching and then doing it. I was impressed during COVID that's when I started Zoom because of COVID. One of my students who had practiced with me in Tucson goes to Vermont in the summer. And so she did Zoom during this time of COVID. And then she came to the advanced class. She hadn't been in an advanced class. She had studied in a little town called Marana and at a senior center. She had studied with me. And so she, during COVID, came to Zoom every time. She came to the advanced class and she could do it with us.
Because she had learned on
Because she had learned on her own. And I was impressed with that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know if Zoom would work like that way. So it can work in that way.
Okay.
And you just have to have the perseverance and the patience to say, okay, I'm going to just watch this, and I'm going to, right now what I'm learning is standing meditation, you know, and then I'm learning body posture.
Yeah.
And now I'm learning steps, and now I'm going to learn the first 2 movements or like that.
Yeah.
So that's possible.
The other thing that you've done to make it easier for people to learn is you wrote a book. And in the book, you talk more about Tai Chi, and then you also have all of the steps, and it's like you're calling it Little Edna's. So there's like little pictures of her and doing each movement. So you can see her doing the movement and follow along with that. But you would really... We were talking about this. You would really need to see it also. So it's like it's a tool to help you to do it, but it's kind of to all work together.
Right. So for example, if you took the Zoom class and you had the book, then you could also practice the 5 basic steps, and you've seen me do it. And so then the next week you would do it again. And that in that way, I think you could learn. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
And you can get, a lot of people like ebooks, and you can get an ebook
on your website.
On my website.
And your website is the easy way to get there. What did we say?
The easy way to get there is my name. So it's Edna, Edna, Silva, Silva. So ednasilva.com.
Yep, that's it.
You just go to ednasilva.com and get you to my website, and you can purchase the book, and you can sign up for Zoom.
Yeah, or if you're in Tucson, sign up to go to classes, right?
Right, just give me a call. The phone number is in there, too. You could give me a call, and I would be happy to talk to you as well.
She loves talking Tai Chi.
Yes. My daughter once said, have you noticed that every conversation goes to Tai Chi? And I said, that's because it is everything. It's kind of like the grasshopper.
Yes. Well, it is amazing, and I've learned so much just because we stayed up last night till 3:30 in the morning, or I should say we stayed up till this morning. We talked all about it, and I learned some movements. I learned so much, and I see the benefit of it, but I also see that it's something that you would have to practice over and over to really get. But I think it's hugely beneficial, and if you have any interest in learning about it, definitely go to Edna's website and check it out. And, I know it is offered in other areas, so you might want to check. If you want to do a class, maybe check with your senior center. It may be a different style, but it's still, now what the benefits of Tai Chi are and what it's all about. Thank you, Aunt Edna, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's been fun. We've talked about doing this for a while, and we were going to do it over Zoom, but hey, she came here. She came to see me. Yay! And hopefully we'll come back again soon.
I hope to. I've really enjoyed it.
Good. Me too. Okay, so thank you all for listening today, and you can find all of the episodes on my website, which is LoriWilliams-SeniorServices.com. Please share with your friends this episode and others. We are all about, on this podcast, about educating people to live their best lives and all that they can know about aging and services that are available. So we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.